Now, it's important to understand that we cannot be positive and all about love and light all the time, because that is what you call toxic positivity. And it's like Uni Kitty from the Lego movie, where she's like, she comes from a place where there's no negativity of any kind. And she talks about how any idea is a good idea, except the not so happy ones. We shove them down deep inside of ourselves where no one will ever find them. And she's like, I must be positive, I must be positive. And she looks like she's about to explode. Well, that's a great example of what we don't want to be doing. We can't be positive all the time because it's not actually healthy for us. And spirituality is not all about love and light. And that is because spirituality requires us to spiritually grow. And in order to spiritually grow, we have to go through the darkness. We have to go into our darker parts of ourselves. Now, if we don't do that, we don't face those dark, negative things that are going on inside of us, and we just use these spiritual practices to keep ourselves positive, that is what you call spiritual bypassing. So spiritual bypassing is a term that was coined by psychologist John Wellwood, and he describes it as a widespread tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. The foundation of spiritual bypassing is basically avoidance and repression. So it's when people use spiritual practices or beliefs to avoid confronting or dealing with their personal, emotional, or psychological issues. So instead of dealing with their problems directly, they use spirituality as a means of elevating themselves above their troubles, avoid responsibility for their issues, or simply bypass their difficult emotions altogether. So I'm going to elaborate more on this with my diagrams on the whiteboard. So firstly, we have here Dr. David Hawkins' scale of consciousness. So these are different emotions which are different vibrational frequencies. Now our vibration is naturally high. So when we were born, we came in on the love frequency, which vibrates at 500. But being here on this planet, which is a really negative, heavy, dense place to be, there's a number of different things that cause our vibration to be pulled down into the lower frequencies. And so what spiritual bypassing is it's basically like you're here at the bottom of a mountain or a hill, and you have all these balls and chains attached to you. And you don't want to release these balls and chains. Instead, you're like, I'm just going to go up the mountain. I just want to be high vibrational. I just want to be up here where it's really high. And so as you try to go up this, mountain with these balls and chains, you're going to find it really difficult. You'll try and get up so far and then you'll fall back down because of the weight pulling you back. And you're like, okay, I'm going to try again. And you try to go back up, up the mountain, up the frequencies, and then the balls and chains just keep pulling you back down, and you struggle to get your vibration up here in the higher frequencies, and you struggle to stay in the higher frequencies because these balls and chains are constantly pulling you back down into the lower frequencies. So that's what spiritual bypassing is you're just trying to be positive, you're trying to be high vibrational, but you're avoiding doing the work, you're avoiding your problems. So these balls and chains, they all represent something, which is what this is here. And what they represent is, the first one is self-limiting beliefs. Right? So we all have these self-limiting beliefs that were programmed into us since childhood. And our self-limiting beliefs is what keeps us in the lower frequencies. So we have to work on releasing, we have to let go and release our self-limiting beliefs. That's one of those balls and chains, right? Because that's one of the things that are holding us back or pulling us back down into the lower frequencies. So another ball and chain is resentment and anger. If we have resentment and anger inside towards other people, people that may have done us wrong, that's going to constantly be pulling our vibration back down into lower frequencies. So we have to learn to deal with the resentment and anger we have towards other people. And we release that through forgiveness. Again, release. We have to let go and release these things in order for our vibration to come back up. Because again, our vibration is naturally high. So you think about it like a buoy in the ocean. If you have a buoy in the ocean and you push it down under the water, as soon as you let go and release, that buoy is going to naturally come back up to the surface. Your vibration works in the exact same way. When you let go and release all these balls and chains, your vibration will naturally just come back up to these higher frequencies. So as we release, it's going to get a lot easier for us to go up the mountain, you know? So the next one stands for our childhood wounds. We all have childhood wounds, and some people have more childhood wounds than others, and that's okay. It's not a competition. It's not about, you know, oh, my wound's worse than yours. It's not about that at all. We all have childhood wounds, and we all have to heal them. We all have to basically revisit our childhood and what happened during childhood so that we can heal these things and again, let it go. Let it go, release. The next one stands for trauma. We all experience trauma. Trauma is just, in my opinion, it's just part of being here in this realm, on this planet. It's just part of the human experience. The problem is a lot of people don't know how to deal with trauma. We haven't been taught, and a lot of us actually store trauma in the body, in the nervous system, in the subconscious mind, and that's another thing that keeps us in lower frequencies. So we have to work on healing our trauma. Now, trauma can be linked to the childhood wounds, but we can also get trauma after childhood. For example, you could be in a car accident. That's a form of trauma. So trauma can come along at any point in time, but the key is really learning how to deal with trauma and how to heal it. Another thing is attachments. We have all these sorts of attachments. And it's Buddha who says attachment is the root of suffering. Attachment is what keeps us in the lower frequencies. You know, we might be attached to labels. We might be told that we have ADHD or we have anxiety or we have depression. And those labels keep us in the lower frequencies. And honestly, those labels don't actually help you. And a lot of depression and anxiety is actually linked to our childhood wounds and trauma as well. And we can be attached to things like, you know, our desires. We could be attached to outcomes, things that we want to happen in our life. But again, attachment keeps us in the lower frequencies, so we have to learn to let go and release in order for our vibration to go back up high naturally where it's supposed to be. And the last one here is hurt ego. A lot of people have hurt egos and they don't realize it, and they end up projecting their hurt egos onto others. So for example, if there's a person that always has to be right, they've always got to be right, that comes from a hurt ego. Maybe as a child they were taught or they were treated in a way where they were, you know, treated like they were stupid or didn't know anything. And so that hurt their ego, and so then they grow up to be someone that's always got to be right. But when you heal the ego, we can work on healing our ego, and when we do that, like one of the signs of having a healed ego is you don't care about being right anymore. So all of us have all this sort of baggage that's keeping our energy in these lower frequencies, that weighs it down. And again, spiritual bypassing is ignoring all these things and trying to get up high up on this mountain without releasing our baggage, our balls and chain. And I just got to be positive all the time. But again, you're never going to be high vibrational. It's always going to keep pulling you back into the lower frequencies. Don't be like Uni Kitty, who's all like, just got to stay positive, just got to stay positive. Like, no. So when it comes to spiritual growth, the key is going into the darkness. If you want to get high vibrational, you have to do things like inner work, shadow work, and healing to get up into the higher frequencies, to get to the top of the mountain. So we all have a shadow self. which is the dark part of ourselves where we repress and reject things that we don't like about ourselves. We project our shadow onto other people without realizing it. So this is why we do shadow work. It's a form of healing, and I will link a video at the end of this one that will teach you how to do shadow work, so you'll know what you can do and where to start healing yourself and to start releasing these things, because we want to face our traumas, we want to face our wounds, our negative emotions and feelings. We don't want to ignore it. And so to move through these emotions, to get back up into the higher frequencies, we have to feel the negative emotions, because feeling is healing. If we don't allow ourselves to feel negative emotions, because some people who think, with law of attraction, it's like, oh, we've got to have positive thoughts. We can't have negative thoughts because we will manifest a negative reality. We can't have negative thoughts or feelings, That's unhealthy. So feeling is healing. If you have negative thoughts or emotions, allow yourself to feel them. That's how we release them, by feeling. So feeling is healing. Write it down in the comments section so you can remember. So negative thoughts, emotions, and feelings are allowed when it comes to spirituality and law of attraction and manifestation. Because again, we don't want to be like Unikitty, where it's like, I must be positive, I must be positive, I must be positive, and avoiding the negative feelings. So feeling is healing, and that's how we move up the scale of consciousness into the higher frequencies. We need to let go and release all these things that are holding us back, and we need to do inner work, shadow work, and healing in order for our vibration to naturally raise back up into the higher frequencies. In order to get back up into the mountain, we've got to release all this stuff so we can just easily go up there. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you like this video, guys. If you got some sort of value out of it, let me know by smashing the like button or write a comment. If you like this sort of content, subscribe and hit that bell notification. And I'm going to leave the video here that will teach you how to do shadow work. I hope you have an awesome day. Peace.